I'm Suzi Landolfi, and welcome to Be Crazy Well. Now, why would a therapist say that? Because we all have mental health struggles, even therapists. The good news is we have so much more information about how we can be crazy well. On my podcast, we don't focus on what's wrong with us. We want to know what happened to us. We're going to explore how trauma affected us, both negatively and positively. That's right. I said positively. It's called post-traumatic growth, and it's a real thing. Be Crazy Well will share mental health wellness practices, the newest mental health research, and most importantly, how we all get to create the person we deserve to be and the life we deserve to live. So join the mental health evolution and be crazy well.
To see within is to know yourself.
Hi, I'm Suzi Landolfi, and welcome to Be Crazy Well. For any of you that may have listened in the past, you know that I'm a big advocate on not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. I care much more about the story about what happened to you than any diagnosis from any therapist, including myself. Now, I understand the idea of a diagnosis. I get it. Get that we need to, quote unquote, label something. We need to know how to treat it. And that makes sense to me. The trouble is we're so unique and so individual in terms of our diagnosis that the treatment, even though it's evidence-based, may not be the best treatment for you because we don't know the story. We don't know what happened to you. So I'm a very reluctant therapist, and I am very reluctant to give diagnosis, especially since I don't know the story first of what happened to you. Plus the fact, you ever notice that a diagnosis doesn't tell you all the good shit about yourself? Why is that? And that's a huge problem for me. So I can tell you a diagnosis based on your symptoms, and you have to have 5 out of the 7 or 4 out of the 6 or all 6. And then we would probably take a look at the severity of the symptoms. And yet again, doesn't tell me anything about your good stuff. And I just can't buy into that story. And one of my biggest peeves as a therapist, in terms of helping people, diagnosing people, is we don't talk about what was told to you. There was a lot of stuff done to you, some great, some not great. And we don't talk enough about the words that were used with you, to you, by others. And that started when you were learning how to talk. You know, it's interesting when people talk about, they watch a baby and the baby's smiling and they go, oh, they're happy. You can smile because there's a tickling feeling in your stomach or fart. You literally can have a physical reaction of a facial expression based on a physical sensation that has nothing to do with an emotion, nothing to do with an actual concept of a thought and an emotion, much more because of a physical sensation, because that's basically what babies know. They know when something is pleasant and when something's unpleasant. We then start to tell them what they're feeling. And if they're crying, we'll say they're sad. Maybe they're uncomfortable. And I just worry that we continue this language teaching, assuming that we know everything that that baby is feeling and what it means. Hence, the child is going to believe that and possibly make decisions in their life based on what they think they are feeling, based on what they were told. I remember when my grandson was very little, and I said to him, I think I've said this on the podcast before, and it's worth repeating. he was just learning to talk. He was very good at it, and he was getting a lot of words. And he was starting to go to nursery school, and I was concerned that he was going to hear things that, not things, and be told things that I was not comfortable with, and I thought could be very detrimental. So I started to do the language of, Logan, there's certain words that we don't say in our family because they're hurtful. And I said, one of them begins with the word S. And he looks right at me, goes, "You mean the word shit?" And I almost fell over. And I go, no, we can say that. I'm not worried about that one. I'm worried about one that's much more hurtful. And it begins with S, and the word is stupid. And he said, "Yeah, Jima, I've heard that. I know that word. Like, people call people stupid, or they say that's stupid." And I go, no, it's so hurtful. It's so hurtful. And the more I think about the words that we use as children are growing up and the words we now use as adults, I have heard myself at times when my daughter was growing up, like, "Why'd you do that? That was so stupid. What are you, stupid?" Like, I so remember that because I remember my father saying that. And I just carried on the tradition, much like pumpkin pie. Like, make it this way. That's our tradition. And boy, when I really started to take a look at words matter, that wasn't going to happen on my watch. Not at all. So I'm just going to say a couple of things about and share a couple of things about maybe how you think and feel about yourself comes from what was told to you, certainly what was done to you. And let's not disregard how important words are and that words matter. They matter in terms of how we view ourselves, and they matter in terms of how we talk to others and let them know what we think and feel about them, or even what they think and feel about themselves. So these ideas about language where we are given words as children, or we use words in our families, almost like a tradition, and yet we don't get to define them or describe them or come up with the meaning. And that's an interesting concept to me, since now with the internet and now with everybody having cell phones, and it's completely different. No one's going basically to a dictionary, or even if you do go to a dictionary now, it's probably online. And so many more words have been added to the dictionary. Our lexicon grows all the time. We add words, we take words away. And yet some of us are brought up on words about ourselves that we would never, ever want to say to some of our friends or some of the people we love, we say we love. Now, love's an interesting word, actually. Let's start with that one. We probably heard times when our parents said, "I love you so much. Mommy loves you, Daddy loves you." And I can remember when I was learning how to put a sentence together in English class, and they started to tell me that there's a format on how to make a sentence. And what you need is a subject, you need an object, and you need a verb, or you don't have a sentence. If you don't have a verb, then you just have a phrase. I'm not saying phrases are bad. At the same time, if you want people to really understand you, it's probably a good idea to try to speak in as clear a way as possible, and hence the formation of a sentence. So when I was thinking of this sentence that we use all the time, I was pretty shocked by what I realized so late in life. When I say I, that's my subject. When I say you, that's the object. And the verb is love. Oh, wait a minute. You're telling me love is a verb? Yes. If you believe I love you is a sentence, which I'm sure we would all agree it is, then love is a verb. And I thought about how that has probably confused a lot of us. If someone says, I love you, I'm thinking they have an emotion about me. That's what I'm thinking. Yet now I realize it's not an emotion, it's a verb. And then I have to ask myself, well, what does the verb love mean? I know what running means. I know what hitting means. I know what eating means. So what does love mean if it's a verb? So I started to define that word, because if people are going to say that to me, or I'm going to say it to someone else, I better know what the hell I'm talking about in terms of what I'm doing and what they're doing. It's a verb. So I was thinking about, okay, what are some of my definitions of what I would be doing if I love somebody? And I thought, well, I'd be kind. I'd be caring. I would be honest. I wouldn't want to lie to them. And then I thought of all the times that I have loved someone and I wasn't kind and I wasn't caring and I wasn't honest. And I was thinking about how I loved someone. I felt something for them, yet it didn't last. I then started to resent them, or I would get angry at them, or they would scare me, or they would irritate me. So, or I would get irritated. They didn't irritate me as much as I got irritated. So then love, if it's not an emotion, it's my behavior that changed. It's their behavior that changed. And what was the emotion that I felt when I loved somebody? I felt joy. I also could feel fear. I could also feel sadness. So a verb like, say, running, because I'm a runner, I can feel joy when I run. I can feel scared when I run. I could feel sad when I run, especially if I have some pain or I'm not running very fast. And I thought, boy, these are things we really got to talk about. Talk about saying the S word. Like, we don't say stupid in our family, but you can say shit. I thought, well, that's something we should be talking about in terms of love. That confusion right there about someone saying they love you, yet treating you badly. I can't think of anything that would be more, I don't know, dangerous to our own well-being. Because I now have a definition of love based on how someone treated me. And if they didn't treat me well, how the hell am I going to be able to choose somebody that will treat me well, treat me kindly, care for me, and be safe? I probably won't. If I was told I was stupid, I will believe that. If I don't believe it, I'll be so afraid that I might be stupid that I would probably push myself to be really smart. Probably push myself so far that if I didn't get an A, I might feel pretty terrible about myself, that I'm not valuable. If someone tells me all the time, I'm perfect and I'm wonderful and you make me so proud and you make me so happy. How do I let myself be wrong? How do I let myself not have to do everything right and still feel good about myself? Most of what we think about ourselves and feel about ourselves was either done to us or told to us. Done to us or told to us. And none of it might be true. I know that I was told by my dad once, I'm so disappointed in you. Wow, that hurt. I disappointed. That means they had expectations about me that I didn't live up to, that my job as a child is to make them proud and happy, that maybe I wasn't disappointed in myself for that same behavior, that same action. Maybe I wanted to be a dancer and not a doctor. Yet choosing to be a dancer might have disappointed the parent that wanted me to be a doctor. I didn't do anything wrong. My job isn't to make somebody proud. My job is to be able to use my gifts and to create a life I deserve, I want, and to feel about myself in a way that I know I can continue to grow. I'm wondering if we say things about each other, even as adults, that really inhibit our ability to grow, to forgive ourselves, to be able to continue to create a life that we want, an ability to be able to get up when we really do make some mistakes, or when something happens to us that has nothing to do with what we did. I was driving the other day, and I had my blinker on. I'm in my right-hand lane. I'm doing everything well. I'm going nice and slowly. And apparently a woman behind me, the only thing I can surmise is that because she's behind me, it's a parking lot with stores. All of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I hear a bump and I see a car whiz by me. And she's going so fast in this parking lot, it takes her some about 60 or 70 feet to stop. And the whole right side of her car from her passenger side door back is kind of crunched in. And I was almost stopped because I was just starting to take a left-hand turn. She's coming around the right of me in this parking lot. So I'm obviously not in her lane. And I get out and I go over to her. Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm just making sure. And she said, yes, I'm okay. You were in my lane. And I was so proud of myself. I was able to go, huh, I knew I wasn't in her lane. There was no lane. There was no, I was in front of her. I wasn't behind her. And I said, you were going very fast. No, I wasn't. And I thought, our language isn't going to work here. Whatever I say, she's going to deny. And I said, well, I'm grateful that we're both okay. Let's just swap information and we'll let the insurance companies figure this out. I'm just grateful. I said, I would like to believe she was at least my age. And I said, I'm so happy because I think our families would be very sad if either one of us was hurt or both were hurt. And I thought about my language, and I thought about her language. I thought about what I could say at that moment, all the things I could have said, all the angry words I could have said, all the ways of convincing her or defending myself, all of that. And I realized I didn't have to say any of those things. None of those words mattered at that moment. And that's a great gift to have. Because if we believe things about ourselves that were either said to us or done to us, we're going to carry them in every situation of our life. And if I was always made to be wrong, that it was my fault, the minute that woman claimed that it was my fault, I probably would have reacted in not a very healthy or safe way to defend myself from being constantly told, either as a child or even as an adult in a relationship, that I'm wrong. And I was really happy that I didn't have to do that. I don't ever have to do that anymore. And I can remember the days that I did. And I chose my words carefully. And I realized I didn't even have to say anything. I could just do what is safe to do at that moment. I come from a state called Massachusetts. You probably don't know this about us. We get a mouth on us in Massachusetts. We literally call ourselves massholes. That's what we call ourselves. Like, we have terms of endearment that would make most people cringe or their hair turn gray, which of course mine already has. And I realized that words matter in all different areas of the country, all different kinds of culture, gender, race, sexual orientation. I mean, words really, really are different and matter in many different scenarios. When I started to work with men and women in the military, I had to learn a lot of new words. In fact, in the military, it's so neat because they actually have so many words, they just kind of make them into acronyms. I believe that's what the word is, where everything's just letters. And I can remember how people are talked to, how they're labeled, how they're spoken to, and what words mean. And when men and women in the military and veterans who I specifically work with, and the athletes I work with, there's a real important word. Most of these wonderful men and women in both areas, athletes and veterans, really live for the word win. That in the military, winning could be dying. If you're not winning, you could be dying. So winning is very important. And of course, in sports, same thing. To win is the ultimate. And when they come into a situation where winning actually means to not win, I may be a little clearer, that sometimes winning an argument, winning a position, winning in terms of pushing yourself to the point of complete exhaustion, that's actually a loss as well. Losing isn't part of the deal. It's not part of the lexicon. Losing is bad. And yet, when we are struggling with our mental health, winning may push us into a very great danger zone, where if we don't win, we might actually believe we're not worth living. And I worry about all the words that we use in order to describe ourselves and to prove our value. I know that letting go, surrendering, backing out, saying no, resting, all of those words can cause a lot of anxiety in people that have been trained that they're not valuable if they don't win. And I'm hoping that one of the things we can do for one another in our families and in our relationships, partnerships, in our friendships, that we can start to really think about and be careful about the words that we use to describe ourselves and describe each other, and even to be able to describe the life we deserve. And with that, I'd love to say that if you would like to talk to me about any of this, I want to hear from you. I would love to have you contact me and share with me some of your stories about how you are creating the person you deserve to be and the life you deserve to live, and what words you're using to describe yourself. And I would ask you to make sure that you know where those words came from and whether or not they're true. And chances are, I think you're going to find out that many of the words that you were taught to describe yourself are not true. And you get to change the language about yourself. Know your story. Know what was said to you. Know how you were taught to think and feel about yourself. And if it doesn't match who you are and what you're doing, then change, because that's what you get to do. You deserve that. All right, until next time, who knows when that is? Listen, I'm 72 years old. I'm just grateful I woke up today. Like, I never know when my next time is. I'm not going to waste a minute because I don't know how many more minutes I have left. I wish we all lived that way. I wish I had done more of that living that way when I was younger. Probably not able. And if you really want to think about some wonderful words, listen to the words of the theme song that I was given the opportunity to use by Calvin Love, great songwriter. And he talks about being your best self. And that's what you get to do, regardless of what was said about you, regardless of how you were talked about or you were talked to. And I'm so grateful that my grandson understands that you can say shit. You can't say stupid. It's not okay. It's hurtful. All right. Have a great week. Be crazy well.